Hi, I'm Chad with Move Forward Guitar. This lesson is from our series Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about unison notes and unison note shapes. First off, download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. It contains everything that I'm talking about in this lesson, all the charts and diagrams, as well as much more, so it'll be really useful to you. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download that. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it may not be available as you're watching this lesson. And if it's not available yet, it'll say coming soon. And if you'd like to get notified when it is available, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a notification for when it is available and let you download it. And also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all the charts and diagrams will be on the screen. And also, we add at least one new lesson every day, so be sure to subscribe. So this is part 5 in our series Music Theory for Guitar. And if you'd like to start at the beginning and watch all the other lessons first, you can click the link on the screen. So in the last lesson we talked about octaves and octave shapes, and as you'll remember, an octave is the same note but different pitch, so one note is higher than the other, which equals, if you're on one string, which would equal 12 frets or 6 whole steps apart. In this lesson, we're going to talk about unison notes and unison shapes. And a unison note is different than an octave note. They're both the same note name, like an octave is, except they're the exact same pitch. So an octave has the same note name, but one is a different pitch, so one is a higher pitch than the other. A unison note, they have the same note name, but they're the exact same pitch. And this is different than a piano. A piano doesn't have any unison notes. So this is something that can be more confusing on a guitar when you're learning music theory. And that's why I'm pointing it out now and explaining it, because it's going to be important as we're going through these music theory lessons to understand that the guitar is laid out differently. So it's important to understand how it's laid out on your instrument and not just look at this through a piano type theory. And unlike in interval, you can't show a unison note on the same string. It's not possible. If you have a pitch starting anywhere on one string, you can't show another note that's the exact same pitch on the same string. It would just be the same note. So unison notes can only be on 2 separate strings. So in the last lesson I showed you octave shapes, and then I showed you how to take those octave shapes and find one note up the whole fretboard. And we ended up with the diagram just like this. So we started here. We went up to this first octave shape, which these two are 2 octaves apart. Then we went to the next one, which is 1 octave apart. The rest of these are 1 octave apart. And we just moved through. And all these red arrows, if you follow the arrows, all these notes are different octaves. So these 2 notes are different octaves. These 2 notes are different octaves, and so on. And I'm just going to extend this out to the 20th fret because most guitars won't go past this. If we were starting with this note, your guitar probably doesn't go past this. So I just wanted to bring it all the way out. But just like I mentioned in the last lesson, everything that's happening right here, up here, is the exact same as what's happening right here. And if your guitar went further, you would capture these notes as well. But you'll remember that from the last lesson, that these notes are just repeating what's going on back here an octave higher. So all those notes are octaves. So if you follow the red arrows, each of those notes from each other are in different octaves, so they're different pitches. Now I'm going to show you notes that are the exact same pitch, or how to look at these notes that are right here and see which ones are the exact same pitch. And we're going to just start with unison notes, just like we started with octave shaped notes in the last lesson. So the first unison note that we're going to start with is this one. So if you're starting on the 6th string, your first unison note, you would go down towards the floor 1 string, which would be the 5th string, and you would go back towards the headstock of your guitar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets. So then you would end up with these 2 notes, which end up being the exact same pitch. So neither of these notes are higher or lower than each other. And if you were to play these notes on your guitar, or different unison notes on your guitar, they might sound like different pitches to you, and they might be a little bit different pitch, but that's because most guitars aren't perfectly intonated, and also the string gauge can make a difference in how they sound, but technically they are the same pitch. It's just that instruments aren't perfect, so that's why they might sound a little bit different to you. The next unison shape, number 2, starts on the 5th string, and that's the exact same shape. Then we go down towards the floor again. The next one is starting on the 4th string, that's unison shape 3. It's the exact same shape as the last two. Then we go down towards the floor again. Now, as you'll remember, like from all the other lessons, we're hitting the 2nd string, so that means we need to move up 1/2 step or 1 fret to accommodate for hitting that 2nd string, and how the tuning between these two strings is a major 3rd instead of a perfect 4th. So if you move that one note up, you end up with this shape. So now, instead of the last ones, if you start on the 1st note, which is on the 3rd string, you go down towards the floor to the 2nd string, and then back towards the headstock 1, 2, 3, 4 frets now instead of 5 frets. And that's the octave, or that's the unison shape. So unison shape 5 starts on the 2nd string, and again you're hitting the 2nd string, so that means that the note that hits the 2nd string has to move up 1 fret or 1/2 step, and that gives you this shape, which actually just ends up being the exact same shape as the other ones. So the only shape that is different is unison shape 4, which starts on the 3rd string, and it's on the 3rd and 2nd string. That's the only one that has a different shape. The rest are all the same. So now if we take these shapes and do the same thing that we did with the octave shapes, I'm going to show you how to find all of the unison notes on the fretboard. So here are all the unison notes with the blue arrows. So you'll remember that the red arrows are all your octave shapes. So each one of these is an octave or 2 octaves right here apart from each other if you just follow along the red line, the red arrow. But now if you follow along the blue arrow, all these notes are the exact same. So this note and this note are the exact same with each other, which means that this note's the same, this note's the same, and this note's the same. So this whole line is the exact same note. Same as right here, same as right here. All of those are the exact same note to each other. And let me remove the octave arrow so that you can see that without the red arrows. So now you see you can just use those unison note shapes to find the exact same note. So if we started on the 6th string note right here, we just do what we did. We go down towards the floor 1 string, back towards the headstock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a unison note. You do it again from this one, it ends up right here. You run out of room, so these 3 notes are all the exact same. So then if you were to start with the 5th string, it would be the exact same. You just use the same shape here, you'd use the same shape here. Here you're on the 3rd and 2nd string, and that's the only time the shape changes is when you're on the 3rd and 2nd string. So this one is the different octave shape where you have to move this one note in 1/2 step to accommodate, so it's already drawn that way on this. And then when you start on the 2nd and go to the 1st string, it goes back to the original shape. So now you have the ability to see all the notes that have the same name. So what I'm showing right here just happened to be F notes, just so I could start where I started, but they're arbitrary notes. This is going to work no matter where you move this on the fretboard. All the distances stay the same. But for example, since these are F notes, you can see where all the F notes lie on your fretboard, and you can see which ones are octaves, so which ones have higher pitches from each other, and which ones are the exact same note. And that's important to understand as you're learning music theory on the guitar. And again, you don't have this issue when you're dealing with the piano because there are no unison notes. So that's why it's important to understand this first as you're diving into music theory so that you don't get confused later. But again, you don't have to have this perfectly down in your mind. We're going to go over this more and more as we go through these lessons, so don't worry about it. It'll become clearer and clearer to you as we're going through. And again, just download that e-guide and use that as a reference. You'll come back to it often. It'll be really useful to you. So you can go ahead and move on to the next lesson where we're going to dive deeper into this subject, and be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.